All right. We are live now. So this is Indie Talk with Jesse and Jaron featuring the hot shot, Danny Duggan. So what's going on, Danny?
Doing good. Freshly back in Canada, missing the good old USA already, but happy to be home and seeing some people.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're already back in Canada. Okay.
Yeah, I was down in the US for 6 months, so I just got back up to Canada this week. So hoping to be back down in America sooner than later, but getting that currently sorted out.
Okay. Yeah. All right. We'll get into it. So I guess we'll start off with yeah, your audio's cracking.
My audio's cracking?
Yeah. Pretty loud too. That's why I was gonna say something. So
is that better?
Seems to be working.
Yeah. I know Jesse has a lot of issues with that too, so I think it's working now. Yeah.
Just not me, Danny.
Just not
not me. It's
I think it was my makeshift studio here. I've got a box of canned drinks, some water bottles holding up my phone, so I think it was caving in and making some static there. But I think I got it a little more sturdy now.
Yep. Sounds good.
Alrighty.
I may be still relatively young in age, but I'm definitely old at heart, and technology confuses me. So this is a whole process and setup for me. I'm an old man who doesn't like change, you know. Chatting on the internet for me was MSN Messenger growing up. Anything after that's a little too fancy.
Oh man. Agreed. It took us a while to get StreamYard figured out. One of my friends who also does a podcast is like, hey, you should use StreamYard. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm like, what does all these buttons do? So there's so much technology.
I remember 5 or 6 years ago when podcasts were sort of becoming a thing. I attempted one, and that at the time the format was Blog Talk Radio. I don't know if you remember that format. And I attempted it with the help of a producer. That was my condition in doing it, is I need somebody to do the technical side of things. We got a couple episodes off the ground, but the second he wasn't there to be in person, shit went down in flames very quickly, and that was the end of that podcast. Trying to connect with somebody live and stay connected live was one thing, and then when you lost them, trying to get them back was something completely out of my realm of knowledge. So we quickly escaped that business model.
Yeah, I've never worked with the Blog Talk stuff, but I have been on podcasts, and they're like, welcome to Blog Talk Radio. We got Mr. Jaron Peel, Phenomenal Figures guy in here, and it's a cool setup, but it feels like it was.
Is it still around?
Yeah, I've seen a couple people.
I would have assumed with all the advancements in technology, that would have been just an outdated format at this day and age.
It's like, you got to call this number, and then we'll bring you on. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I remember that because I'm being in Canada. Blog Talk was based in the US, so if I had a Canadian guest, this was before phone plans were as fancy as they were. People had to call long distance, even if they were in Canada, to talk to me on the Blog Talk. So I had to weed out my guests by who had proper long distance plans, so it wasn't costing them $100 to do an interview with me.
Yeah, that's got to be a lot more difficult when you're across the country and stuff. So yeah, I just want to be on a podcast. I don't want to spend money.
Exactly. But looks like you guys got it set up. We're ready to rock. We're live, as I can see. So let's talk some pro wrestling.
All right. So we'll start off with let's going back to the beginning. Talk about how you got into watching wrestling and your early career.
Man, I don't have very many memories left because I've been hitting the head for 20 years of my life. But my first memory I can recall on this planet is being 3 years old and watching professional wrestling. I was born in 1987, so it was around, I think it was Hulk Hogan's Sergeant Slaughter. Sergeant Slaughter just turned on America. He turned on Hulk Hogan. He turned on the people. And that is the first memory I have on this planet, not just the pro wrestling, but on this planet, is watching that. And from 3 years old, it would go on to be something that my parents wouldn't call a hobby or a passion. They would call it an obsession. It was all pro wrestling all day, every day from there. And, here I am now at 35 years old, and it's very much the same as I live pro wrestling every single day. So I was very eager to get involved in any which way I could. I not always knew, but always wanted to be a pro wrestler growing up. It was never, I want to be a firefighter, a hockey player, a circus clown. Well, I guess you're sort of a circus clown when you're a pro wrestler, but I didn't want to be that specifically. But I never had any dreams or aspirations of being anything else. It was pro wrestling or bust. So that was kind of always my focus. And I was very, very lucky. Just by chance, it was 1999 back in Canada. We got all the WCW programming on a delay on a different day. We never got it live on the major networks because we didn't have those channels in the US. So we had to wait until they were on replay on one of the Canadian networks. And I was watching a WCW Nitro replay on a Saturday afternoon. And there was an advertisement for a local wrestling school. And at the time, I didn't even know local wrestling existed. Never mind, there was a local wrestling school. So at 12 years old, it looked like my dreams were coming true. There was a wrestling school on television. So I wrote down that number. I hid it from my parents so they wouldn't see it and have any questions about what I was doing. And waited till they were in bed that night and called the promoter around midnight. Probably woke him up and said, "Hey, I saw this ad for a wrestling school. I want to be a pro wrestler." And probably by the lack of testosterone in my voice at 12 years old, he realized I was probably a little too young to be making that phone call. So he was very gracious in letting me down that I was too young to train to be a pro wrestler. But if I wanted to come down and assist at the shows and kind of just help out where I could, selling programs, carrying ring jackets, all that kind of stuff, he gave me an open invite to come on down because I guess he appreciated my ambition. So at 12 years old, I got involved with local wrestling shows, just helping out, setting up chairs, setting up the ring, ringing the bell, just anything I can get involved in, just to be a part of it. And then as I got a little bit older and been around a couple more years, I started training to referee at 14 years old. And then while actually refereeing, I started training to wrestle while I was 14 and had my first match at 15. And I've been going pretty much full time ever since then.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah, it's got to be interesting to be a promoter. Just get a call from a kid being, "Hey, I want to get be a wrestler." I'm like, "Oh, that's good, kid." But, yeah,
and that's a different time. Oddly enough, if somebody called and did that now, they would probably be accepted into the wrestling school because anybody can be a wrestler now. There really is no age or size qualification or experience qualification. So I was very, very lucky in that sense. But yeah, I couldn't imagine. I kind of chuckle now because we have a wrestling school up here in Winnipeg, and we accept students starting at the age of 16. But I always kind of get a chuckle because we do get younger kids that will message you that are 13, 14, 15 years old that want to be wrestlers. It's something that, a lot of kids dream of doing. And, some of them come across the school and they want to get involved. So I always have a chuckle at that because I have to tell them they have to wait till they were 16, even though, me personally started a couple of years prior. But now me being as the promoter and having some liability involved, I understand why we have to wait till we're a little bit older because a 13-year-old getting dropped on his head and breaking his neck is not good for anybody. And that could have definitely happened to me back then. Luckily it didn't.
Yeah, definitely lucky on that. So, starting at 13, being able to just help out with wrestling, that's got to be pretty much any kid's dream right there. So, yeah.
And it's amazing, times have definitely changed. I'm definitely becoming one of the old guys that yells at the clouds about how the business has changed and things are different. But man, just looking back to even my training when I was a kid, they beat me up. If they did that to a kid now, there'd be people going to jail. It would not be acceptable in today's internet world and social justice society. But looking back on it, they were definitely rough and being tough with a kid, but it was definitely paid dividends as it definitely trained me and disciplined me for what would end up being my living, the following 20 years of my life. And someone who's been very lucky to be on the road full time for the majority of my career. If I wouldn't have had that discipline and that toughness set in me very early, I definitely wouldn't have made it. So it's a double-edged sword, because you don't want to be excessive and too rough and tough with people, but there is a fine line where discipline needs to be established. And, that's something we see, definitely lacking in a lot of pro wrestling today. And it's definitely prevalent in the product, not just necessarily in the ring, but, I can attest to it being a promoter, dealing with guys on the road and dealing with them professionally. Just that same discipline and dedication is not there. simply because I don't think it was ingrained in them very early on, because society has shifted so much where you can't necessarily, go as far as you once did in implementing some of these things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Definitely a different world. Definitely a different world for wrestling itself. And I wish kids would learn some of these things. You see so much of this stuff on the internet, kids doing all these things, and like, oh god, my mom would have beat me up. Yeah. I was born in the early 2000s in 2002, and it was that's still even different from today. So yeah.
Did
All
you
right.
say you were born in 2002?
Yeah. Yep.
Man, I had my first match January of 2003. So thank you for aging me today. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Oh man, Danny's showing off how old he is now.
I started wrestling very young, so even though I've been doing it a very long time, I'm still relatively young in life's terms. But because I started wrestling at 14, 15, I've been wrestling so long now that I've been wrestling longer than some of the opponents I've wrestled. Like you just mentioned, being born in 2002, that has now started happening to me in recent years. I'll be wrestling someone who wasn't born when I had my first match yet. And it's just like, whoa, that's humbling. That's father time catching up on you.
Yeah. It is weird how it works like that. So, yeah. All right, I'll let you go, Jesse.
All right. So, how did you get Petey Brown to come and work for you in your promotion?
For my promote, Petey Brown, I love Petey. He's one of my favorite people in the business. Petey is just a prime example of somebody who was very respectful and very kind when he broke into the business. And I felt a responsibility to pay that back to Petey. I met Petey when he first started. He was still training when I was making regular trips down to Minnesota. And I hit it off really well with him personally, and he was great. We'd stay at his house when we'd make the trips down to Minnesota. He took good care of us, would cook us up a good meal. He'd bring us downtown Minneapolis, show us around the clubs in town. He was just a great dude who was very accommodating and took care of some Canadians that were coming down and trying to wrestle and trying to, make it work while we were coming down there. And he had such great hospitality that the offer was always there. When he was ready to start wrestling, he was more than welcome to come back up to Canada and do that. So he was still in training, and he wanted to do a trip up to Canada. And I think he had his first actual match for CWE. His first professional match, I think, was for us. I might be mistaken, but I'm fairly certain he did at one of our monthly bar venues. We did it up this way. And I think he started doing a couple tours with us shortly after. And then, that was kind of the foundation to what kickstarted his career down in the Midwest. And now he's doing really well for himself. He's a booker for promotion down there, and he keeps a very busy schedule, and now he's paying it back and booking guys and giving them opportunities. So I'm really happy to see that, and I like to think, even if a small part of that was my influence, just trying to guide Petey early on in his career, because he was so kind and gracious with us, that I always try to take every opportunity to try to explain the business and teach him things outside of the ring as much as possible, and just how it worked and the etiquette of it and moving forward in the business and things of that nature. And he seems to be applying it, doing very, very well for himself. So I always like to keep an eye on what they're doing, and it seems like they're doing some good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Petey Brown's definitely an awesome guy. I think I started watching Petey Brown around the same time I started watching you or first saw you. So yeah, Petey Brown's definitely a good dude. I've been seeing him more recently as of last year. I'm like, oh, Petey Brown's here and he's doing his thing. And Petey just overall a great guy and great booker for the AWF and everything. So yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm getting some really bad static on your guys' end. I had a hard time hearing that.
Oh, is it mine? Oh, I thought it was coming for your end. Huh.
I got a nice sturdy surf.
Yeah, we hear yours is coming through on ours now. So
yeah, when you're talking on your end, it's coming out a little staticky on my end. So I'm trying to hear as tight as I can.
Okay. All right. I guess that was. Yeah, it is really bad on your end right now.
Is that coming on my end?
Yeah. Oh,
I wonder what's causing that. Yeah,
might be in your set. Or Jesse, what did you do to fix it again?
I went to my settings and just pressed on the microphone, and then it took everything away.
Hmm. Give it a second.
try that. Can you hear it?
No. Is it still staticky on your end?
Yeah, very.
No. All right. Well,
Hopefully it's not. I can power through and try to listen and answer, but hopefully it's not too bad for the people listening at home.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Wait patiently, guys.
Yeah, I'm holding the phone handheld now, so I shouldn't be getting any feedback.
Okay. Yeah, still kind of there.
Yeah.
Okay. You guys want to hang tight for a second? I'll try logging in and try logging out and join you back.
Okay, sounds good. We'll be here. All right. Well, yeah, sorry about that. Fans were he's experiencing difficulties. He should be back on in a second. So, yeah. Yeah.
Must be the Canadian weather.
Must be the Yeah, I wonder how StreamYard works in Canada. Yeah. Huh. P. King says only in Canada.
Come on now, Pete. Don't blame Canada.
Don't blame
Not
Canada.
Canada's fault.
Yeah. It's always turns out bad when it's their first time using StreamYard because it's either like their phone's adjusting it or something's going on. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, we're getting comments in the section now. We'll probably answer. Well, I mean, we see Pete's stuff, but we'll answer your question, or we'll mention your comment, Ken, when Danny gets back. So, yeah. Good thing DJ Draper's not on here he didn't like it very much last time. Yeah.
He didn't like the first few interviews, and he let me know that right offhand. Ooh, it's too crackly.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, listening to it, it's got to be really bad from a viewer point of view. I mean, it's still bad for us, but like when you're trying to watch it, it's like, yeah. All right. I think he's back now.
Take three.
Take three. All right. Say something.
Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2.
Hey, it's working pretty good.
It's working right now. So.
It's on a sturdy base, so I don't know why it started changing last time. I hadn't moved anything, so.
Yeah. Huh.
We'll blame Petey Brown. We started talking about Petey and things went to shit. So thanks, Petey.
Yeah, we'll blame Petey Brown. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So yeah, we'll get back into it. We've been getting some comments in the section right now. Ken says, "Hi, Mr. Duggan."
Hello, Ken.
And then Pete King's been in here. He was kind of roasting you about the StreamYard crackling, so not his fault, Pete. Yeah, it was bad. Sounds better. Ken says hi again. So, yeah. Okay. All right.
Hello,
I'll get
Pete
into.
King.
Yeah. All right, so we'll get into let's talk about the process of starting a wrestling company, CWE, Canadian Wrestling Elite.
Man, so yeah, I started that. The idea came in 2008. I had my first official show in January 2009, and at that point, I've been wrestling just under 6 years. And what kind of spawned that idea was I've been traveling a lot for other organizations in Canada. I've been doing a lot of trips down to the US across the country. And I saw a lot of things that I really liked that weren't being applied by anybody locally in the Winnipeg area at the time. So I felt there was a market for something completely different and completely fresh than what was going on. And at the same time, there's a lot of really talented wrestlers here in central Canada that are geographically in the middle of nowhere in regards to the wrestling world. So there's a lot of guys up here that are really talented that you've just never heard of and never seen and maybe never will. And I felt that if we were able to get them working with talent from other regions, it would open some doors for guys to travel to other territories, maybe other countries. And luckily, all those are things, all things that have happened. But that was kind of the general idea: was let's get some guys in here, get them working with our guys, and let's get our guys out and get them some opportunities. So that's essentially what kind of spawned CWE. And luckily, that's exactly what kind of came to fruition. And guys have been to multiple different countries now, multiple different organizations in the U.S., across Canada, and that's kind of what the objective was when that all kind of came together and why it started.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I didn't know that you started it like 10 years ago now. That's pretty insane. I was thinking it was a recent thing, but I was like, oh, yeah, 2009. That's definitely a great run. It's definitely successful right now. So good to hear the process behind that. Yeah.
Yeah, we started in 2009, and it was just a monthly event in Winnipeg, just like every other indie. We were just running one show a month in our hometown. And then at the end of that first year, we decided to start growing and bringing the show on the road because there's a lot of markets up here that just nobody was running. Everybody was focused on the major city, Winnipeg, but nobody was going to the small communities. And generally speaking, the small communities usually do better than the bigger markets because entertainment seems to pass them by. So when you bring something fun like wrestling to town, you're going to get a lot of people out, not necessarily all wrestling fans, but people are just excited for a night of entertainment. So we brought the show on the road in January 2010 and did a 5-show tour that was headlined by the Road Dogg and Big Vito. It had Arya Davari, Michael Elgin, a lot of really talented guys on it. And that kind of spawned what would become the future of CWE as we began touring to different parts of the country throughout that year. And then as it all started to piece together and to where it ended up before the pandemic, we were doing cross-country tours. We were doing 32 to 38-day tours across the entire country, Canada, almost coast to coast. Right before the pandemic closed down, we had a 38 tour booked that was going to go from Vancouver on the West Coast and end with our debut event in Montreal, which is in Quebec and on the complete other side of Canada. So that was something we were really excited about. We were growing by the day, literally, almost too fast. It was hard to keep up with. And then this crazy thing called COVID happened and they shut down the world. We didn't get to do our tour. And for 2 years, things have been almost dormant here in Canada. We just had our first live event at full capacity 1 month ago after two plus years. So we're starting again slow. We've got a 4-show tour coming up next month. We have another tour coming up after that. And we're just kind of baby stepping back into the world and hoping to put it all back together. But unfortunately, there's been a lot of changes since then. You know, economies have been completely ravaged since then. Businesses have closed down. People have lost their jobs. So the disposable income isn't quite what it was in 2019. And then this little thing called gas prices going up has made it very, very tough to get in a car and travel across the country from coast to coast. So we're still kind of navigating this new world and the new expenses that come with it and what people are able to afford and what businesses are able to offer in terms of coming to town. And we're hopeful to put it back together and get back where we were because, man, just to go back in time and think where we were 3 years ago, there was just so much excitement. There was no company in it doing a 38-day tour. Not WWE, not AEW, not New Japan Pro Wrestling. Nobody was doing 38 days in a row. And that was something we were very excited about, very proud of, and something we're very hopeful we can put together again.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, COVID definitely messed up a lot of stuff. And I think for the U.S., shows weren't running until like I went to my first show back from COVID in June of 2021. And just they were pretty much doing full capacities, but just doing the whole mass the masks were definitely mandatory. And then as of December was the COVID test, so you had to get that done as well, or the vaccines, and then now it's I think we're back to full capacity, no more mask and everything. So it's cool to see how the U.S. and Canada just works around COVID for wrestling. So.
Yeah, that's a big part of why I went to the U.S. for 6 months, because there was just nothing going on up here. We had heavy restrictions. There was a period of time we were allowed to run shows with 100 people maximum, which is not enough to pay the bills when you're going on the road. There's mask mandates and there was vaccine passport mandates, all things that were kind of splitting your audience and creating a lot of controversy with one way or another. It didn't matter which side of the fence you're on, you're going to upset a portion of your audience. So it just wasn't viable to run during that time. And it was crazy. Like, I literally crossed that imaginary line on the map to a different country. And in the 6 months I was down there, you didn't see any of that in the US. Things were back to full capacity. And I went from wrestling in our training center in front of no fans with a camera on live streams to wrestling in front of 500 people every week in high school gyms across West Virginia and the Midwest. So it was a completely different atmosphere and just a different approach than what was going on up here, and very refreshing, because as a wrestler, especially one as busy as I was before things closed down, man, that's your life. You get used to being on the road, you get used to wrestling all the time, and just to have that carpet pulled out from under you and just to sit dormant for almost 2 years, it was eating away at me. I was getting a little crazy. I'm sure my wife was very excited for me to get back on the road and get out, because it was getting a little tense being home all the time, just because something you love doing was just completely robbed from you, and you had to just sit there and suck it up. So it was really exciting to get back in the ring there, and now it's really exciting that we're able to do it back here. Now that I'm back up this way, we've got a full schedule coming up in May, June, the end of April here, and we're going to hopefully get wrestling back on the map.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's definitely exciting that you guys are going to be back to a regular schedule, and let's get back to wrestling. I'm sure CWE fans are missing wrestling up there. So yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. I'll let you go, Jesse.
All right. So has David Benoit contacted you about maybe coming in, doing some stuff with you guys?
No, he hasn't. I think I've only personally maybe met him once, and that's a maybe. I think I met him in passing once at a show out in Alberta.
Mm-hmm.
But unless something's changed, the last I heard, he hadn't finished his wrestling training. Maybe he has since then, because I have heard he's had aspirations of getting in the ring and wrestling. So I'm sure once he has, or once he gets started, I'm sure I'll be hearing from him, as we are one of the more prominent, busy organizations here in Canada. So we're the place to be if you want to wrestle, and you want to wrestle lots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think I was hearing in a Chris Van Vliet interview, he wanted to go by David Benoit or Chris Benoit Jr. or something. So that definitely would be cool to see him in a wrestling capacity. And I think there could be controversy right away, but I mean, he's got wrestling in his DNA. So he's
If it's something
definitely
he's passionate about and it's something he's good at, that's what matters. He's not a reflection of what happened with his father. He's his own man, and if he can carry his weight inside a pro wrestling ring, he'll do just fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yep.
sure. Yeah. So transitioning back to when I first saw you, so basically I started going to independent events in 2017. First went to Under the Big Top, and then I found an actual company, Steel Domain Wrestling, and I believe that first night I first saw you at Steel Domain Wrestling in 2017. I'm like, oh, this guy's definitely a wrestler. He's a big bodybuilder dude. So I was like, cool to see you get throwing guys around, and you're probably one of my first memories of seeing independent wrestling. So
Oh, cool.
just talk about Steel Domain Wrestling back then.
Steel Domain, somewhere, it's a place I hold fondly in my heart, because they were the first one to give me a consistent major opportunity in the U.S. I debuted with them in 2012, so I've been wrestling about 9 years already, and I'd wrestled countless times throughout many different states and different regions. But being from where I am in Canada, a lot of times it's just traveling through, picking up as many shows as you can, and coming back home. They're based 6.5 hours from my house, so it was reasonable for me to come down on a regular basis and sink my teeth into something there. So we had our tryout match, I want to say, or our first opportunity there in September 2012, and I felt we really hit a home run with it. And I was asked back consistently, and from there, I feel like I really took the ball and ran with it. They were the first they're the first company in the U.S. that put me in that position to be a top guy for an American company, and they really put their trailer behind me, so to speak, to kind of pull for them. And I feel that that really, really helped me as a performer, because from there, I really started to pick up and get work in other regions because of the work I was doing in Steel Domain. They had a good presence online. People were familiar with who they were. I was featured there as the champion multiple times, and just having really good matches with a lot of good talent from across the Midwest. So it really gave me an opportunity to kind of show that I could hang on a top level for a good independent organization in the US, which ultimately opened so many different doors. It was soon after that I was, getting flown out to Portland, where I was working on Top as Champion there on their television program, going to, East Coast Canada and doing their tours on a regular basis, and just so many other different areas as well. So that really opened up a lot of doors and really helped polish me as a wrestler, because when you're just traveling through and you're having a match for a company and moving on, it's pretty fundamental. You're having a wrestling match, and that's pretty easy when you've been doing it long enough. But to be given the ball as a champion and be responsible for building that audience and making sure people are happy when they leave and even happier to come back, that's a responsibility I take very seriously, and I think everybody should if they're put in that position. And that's one I definitely did. So it really helped me grow as a performer, as I really had to step up my game and make sure I was delivering, because I knew if that didn't work out, it might be a while till I got another opportunity like that. So I definitely tried to make the most of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it was just cool to hear your take on that, because first memory of independent wrestling, you got on to do, well, I guess you did CWE before, but you're still doing that, and I mean you did the 6 months tour in the US, so just good to see you from now and then till then. So yeah.
Yeah, I had a
Oh,
lot of really good matches I was proud of there. I had a good series of matches with AJ Sanchez, who's another Winnipeg guy. I really enjoyed my series of matches with Mitch Paradise for the championship we had over the years. My body doesn't. My back is still hurt from those power bombs years later. But it definitely helped diversify me as a performer, having to wrestle a man of his size and his ability, and be able to have the credible matches we did. So those are matches I really hold dear to my heart. Aaron Corbin was another guy. I had a really good series of matches there that were really scrappy and rough and got a little bloody, and were just completely different from what I was normally accustomed to. That really helped me kind of diversify my portfolio, so to speak, with my range of being a pro wrestler.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mitch Paradise and Aaron Corbin were at the start when I started watching wrestling too, and I think I do remember your Mitch Paradise matches, and those are insane. Power would probably not, definitely don't feel good at all from him. So even choke slams and everything. So.
We had a match where I think it was the last time I won the Northern States Championship, and I beat Mitch for it. This was an accumulation of many months. And I remember in that match, we had so many matches up to that point, and things were so heated and brutal going into that match, that we started that match off hot. And he would hit me with the first of 3 power bombs about a minute into that match. And he power bombed me so goddamn hard that I have never felt impact like that in my life, hitting a ring canvas, that I legitimately thought the match was going to be done. It was when you hear about it being on instinct and adrenaline. That's what had me kicked out of that first power bomb, because it killed me to the point where I was like, the match is done. 1 minute in, we're not going another 20. It was so physical. And then I had to take another 2 before the night was done. So the next morning definitely was not pleasant, but it's definitely one of my favorite matches, and one I'm most proud of, because it was physical and it was everything it built up to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Those are definitely insane matches, and just seeing 2 big guys go at it is always cool to see too. So yeah.
Man, and I don't even feel like a big guy next to him. He makes me feel like a child. He's so big.
No one. I don't think I've ever seen anybody that's like taller or bigger than Mitch Paradise that looks legitimate, and it's the power that he has. So yeah.
Yeah, Mitch is one of those Midwest gems. He's somebody who's been doing this for 20 plus years. He had opportunities early in his career. He decided to pass on to be a family man and be more focused on what he was doing at home. But man, he's one of the best I've been in the ring with. And it's crazy to think what the potential might have been for him, especially in his young years, if he decided to go the path of, pursuing WWE or another major organization, because his ability at his size is completely unmatched. I've wrestled a lot of guys as big as him, as tall as him, as wide as him. Very few have the ability to move like he does and wrestle with the fundamentals he does. Usually when you got a guy that big, they're pretty pretty clumsy and hard to move around, but Mitch is a real pro. And it's just that it's wild to imagine what it could have been if that was the path he decided to take in life, because I think he could have been a really big star in wrestling if he chose to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's definitely for sure. He could have been a big star in a bigger company, but it is cool that he did stay in the Midwest and did his family stuff. And I mean, he hasn't wrestled as much, but I know he has a couple days coming up that I might go to. So yeah,
Good.
he's oh, all right. Yeah, he's also running. He started his own promotion now, Paradise City Wrestling. Have you kept up with that or?
Yeah, I was supposed to work there. I was booked there for June 12th. I had a date there on the schedule, but with me being back up here in Canada, I don't know if that's going to be realistic until I get everything sorted out to return back down there. So
Mhm.
I was scheduled and hope to be again when we get everything worked out with immigration and things of that nature, because I was really looking forward to that one.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah. Yeah, it was crazy. He was running that one yearly show, and now he's got a company running, and I believe he's got another under the big top, and he put the Paradise City logo on there. So now under the big top is an official event of Paradise City Wrestling. So really
Yeah.
cool to see that he's just keeps innovating himself. So yeah.
Yeah, it's good to see that he's still doing it, because I remember maybe about a year or two he said he was going to slow down a bit, and I just thought what a detriment that is to that
Mm,
local wrestling scene there, just because he is so valuable. It boggled my mind, like even before things closed down and I was down there, because you'd only see Mitch on some shows, and other shows,
mm,
wouldn't touch him because he wasn't, a cool, flashy, fast-paced indie wrestler, and that was kind of the style they're going for. And like, if you can't find a place for Mitch Paradise on your wrestling show, you do not know how to book a wrestling show, because he should be
mm,
on every single one of them, because he's the most valuable guy in that area. I truly felt that, and still do. I haven't worked with a lot of guys in that area in the last couple of years, but from that
mm,
run I had there for almost a decade, it just it. I can't fathom running a wrestling show and having Mitch Paradise in your neighborhood and not having him on the card. It just boggles my mind.
mm. Yeah, yeah.
He's
Yeah, I
pro
think.
wrestling personified. You walk up Mitch Paradise, people go, "That's a professional wrestler."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's definitely without a doubt. I mean, he's got the mohawk. He's got the big build. There's no way that nobody's just gonna walk past him like, is that a wrestler? Or, I don't know, but yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. I'll let you go, Jesse.
So you wrestled with or for Tony DiNucci in the AWF quite a bit. How did that come about?
I wouldn't say quite a bit. I think I've had 3 matches there. I believe it was. I had 2 matches there. 2018, probably 2018. I did a match with Arya Davari there before he
Mhm.
went to WWE. I wrestled a match with Chris Jordan there. Oh, I've done 4 matches, because I did a match with Dante Martin right before the pandemic. And
Oh,
then I just did one recently when I got down there in January. I did one in Wisconsin, and that was, because PD Brown's a part of the office there. But yeah, it was just simple. I was coming down at the time for almost every week. Like, it seemed literally like every weekend I was driving from Winnipeg to Minneapolis to the surrounding area. And was, very blessed to be booked by just about everybody in the area. So naturally, I started doing some shows with Tony too, when it became available to do so. So I was able to get on a couple of those, and always had a good time doing them. There was some good talent on them. Was lucky to have some good opponents, and enjoyed that experience. And now, from what I understand, he's kind of hands off. He still runs the business end of things, but PD runs the wrestling operations of things. So I'm very hopeful that things will go well, because, like I mentioned before, I've got high hopes for PD. So I wish them nothing but the best.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, AWF still running lots of shows. I always see updates from them, and they're going all over the Midwest, and yeah, I think they're still doing pretty good. So yeah,
Yeah, they got a
um,
business model that's unique and different than everybody else's, and it works for them. And that's what you got to do to be successful. You got to find something that's your own niche, and make it work. And that's essentially what the AWF does, and why they've been successful for as long as they have.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think they've been running it for at least 15 years now. So he's doing something good, and still getting the crowds at the high schools. So, yeah.
Yeah.
What is your favorite arena to work in?
My favorite arena?
Arena, venue, or town, whichever one you
Uh,
want to.
my favorite arena I ever wrestled in was Korakuen Hall in Japan. That was an honor to me as someone who values and appreciates the history of professional wrestling. A lot of the greatest matches in Japanese wrestling history have happened in that building. So to get an opportunity to participate there myself was definitely a high honor for me that I cherish.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know that you did some Japan stuff. That's awesome to hear. And was it part of New Japan, or was it
No,
down
I've been over
there?
there 3 times. The first time I was there for a company called Wrestling New Classic. No, that was it Smash first. I believe it was Smash first. Tajiri had two organizations. I believe the first one was Smash, and then when he split with his business partner, it was Wrestling New Classic. So I'd wrestled Yoshihiro Tajiri here in Canada, and had a really good match with him in Kushida that went well, which opened the opportunity for me to go to Japan. So I was able to do 2 trips over for Tajiri for both of his organizations. And then in 2018, I believe it may have been 17, I went over for DDT for a couple weeks. So I got an opportunity to do some events with them, and that's where I got to wrestle in Korakuen Hall.
Oh, okay. Wow, yeah, definitely awesome to hear. And I mean, going to Japan, that's always an awesome place. They got the strong style, so it's definitely awesome to hear that you were able to experience some of that. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite places I've ever visited, and I've been very lucky to travel a lot of places. Just the culture, everything about it is just it's very nice to be able to take in. You almost don't think it's the real world because everyone's so nice and polite over there. And if you've been to America where everyone's so loud and obnoxious, you'd be like, what's happening here? Is this a real place? But
Mhm.
it's definitely a change of pace, and it's a really the wrestling culture is great. The fans are very respectful and very appreciative of what's done there, and and that's very visible when you go and wrestle on those events. So they're a pleasure to be a part of.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I always talk with people that go on trips to, I mean, any country, and they always go on the trip, and then they come back, and they're like, yeah, definitely a different pace of life there. People are definitely a lot nicer, a lot more respect in other countries than the U.S. of A. So yeah. All right. Oh, you go, Jesse.
All right. So what's your take on the Kyle Pro and Tony DiNucci issues that are going on right now in the AWF?
I have zero knowledge about them, so I don't have a comment. I know nothing about them.
Mm.
There there
Yeah.
seems to be something going on between them two, and nobody really knows if it's Tony trying to apologize to Kyle Pro for smacking him, and there just seems to be some kind of issue that nobody knows about.
Okay, yeah, this is the first time hearing of it, so you'll have to keep me posted as you hear more.
Oh, I will.
Yeah. Yeah, Kyle Pro started his own little faction, or I don't know if it was him or Stone Edge, but Kyle Pro's got a faction in the AWF now called the Program, and he was AWF champion for a while, and yeah, he's definitely building up in the ranks in AWF and the Midwest. So, yeah.
Good. I think I wrestled him in Winnipeg right before everything closed down, and he was a good talent. He's got a bright future ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Um, so I think a few years ago you had the chance to be on Global Winnipeg promoting the Ring Warriors documentary. Talk a little bit about that.
Sorry, you cut out there.
Talk about being on the Global Winnipeg promoting the Ring Warriors documentary.
Oh yeah, we were. Yeah, so there was a documentary done on CWE. A film company came on the road with us, and they filmed what it was like to be a part of Canadian, life on the road for 3 weeks in the wintertime. So they followed us around town to town. and they put it all together in a really nice package that aired on Canadian television up here, and it got really well received. So, based on that, we were lucky enough to get to do some media rounds for the different news outlets here and get them to see it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I just saw that. I'm like, wow, your company's getting a TV shot to talk about it. So it's really cool to check on that. So,
Yeah, we're very lucky here in Canada. We got a good relationship with a lot of the mainstream news organizations. So, that was something we're very proud of with what we've accomplished with CWE, because up until CWE started, you'd very rarely catch a glimpse of pro wrestling in the newspaper or on television or on the radio, and just through the hard work and building equity with these different partnerships that when we got a big show happening or a big project happening, we're very, very lucky to get a chance to talk about it on a bigger platform with the different major television stations and the radio stations and get in the newspaper, things of that nature. So that's something we're very, very, very happy about and very thankful for, because it definitely helps build your brand as you try to promote independent wrestling.
mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. All right, Jesse?
Yeah. So Pete King, who runs APW, says that you're the #1 contender for their heavyweight championship. Do you have any ideas when that match is going to take place?
No, I won that match, and I was under the understanding there was going to be an event at the end of May where I'd be cashing that in. But for reasons that I'm unaware of, I believe they've postponed that event for now, or the idea of that event, and they're looking at maybe doing something in the summer. So if that's the case, hopefully everything allows for me to come on down and win that championship.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think Danny Duggan does deserve an APW title shot, though, for sure. So,
Yeah, I'm not familiar with Shane Foster. I've seen his name. I've heard people talk about him. So, most guys go and study their opponents and get familiar with them. I'm the complete opposite. I don't want to know a thing about him. I want to go and meet him in that ring and have a wrestling match and see what he's all about.
Okay. Yeah. It gives you the element of surprise, and you get the best out of both wrestlers. So, yeah. Someone who we were talking about recently, Mr. Aaron Corbin, says Danny's promotion is the best touring indie possibility ever. So, or possibly ever. So, yeah.
Thanks a lot, my friend. I miss you very much, and I'm hopeful I can see you in Minnesota soon, and I'll bring gimmicks.
Yeah. I'm glad you can join Mr. Corbin.
Yeah.
Yes, he's one of my favorite opponents, just one of my favorite people in wrestling. He's another unsung hero of the Minnesota area, because he's not, your cool, trendy, flashy, current modern day pro wrestler. I don't think he gets anywhere near the credit he deserves for how talented of a wrestler he is. When you talk about a traditional wrestler from head to toe and his ability, especially his ability as a heel, he's probably second to none in that territory when it comes to getting people to be pissed off at what he's got to say and what he's doing. So I always appreciated wrestling Aaron Corbin, because it was an easy day at the office for me as a good guy.
Yeah. Corbin's probably the best heel in the Midwest, and around the same time I saw you, and he's great on the mic and great wrestler. Not that flashy guy. He just definitely goes in there and knows how to beat people up. So.
Yeah, and that's what it takes, man. Like I said, I'm an old man yelling at the clouds sometimes, and I like my throwback old professional wrestling, but I'm a firm believer that it still works, especially when it's done right. And when people tell me, oh, it's outdated or it doesn't work anymore, that's because they're too lazy to figure it out and how to do it properly. And Aaron Corbin's somebody who definitely knows how to do it properly. And I'm sure, regardless of who's on any card he's on, there's nobody getting that crowd in frenzy like Aaron Corbin, regardless of how cool the moves are they do or how flashy they may be.
Yeah, definitely. What was the inspiration for the fanny pack?
It kind of just started off as a rib. There was we saw a picture of some guys wearing Zubaz in the '80s, and I'm kind of an old school wrestling guy and appreciate that culture and appreciate that generation of pro wrestling. So, I started wearing the Zubaz first and foremost, just kind of, ironically, and just kind of as a joke. But were really comfortable, and I really loved them, and I enjoyed the attention they got. So I went from wearing the Zubaz to realizing, well, these Zubaz pants are great and they're comfortable, but they've got shit pockets. So I understand now why wrestlers had fanny packs when they were wearing their Zubaz. So I had to go and fill out the rest of the uniform and go get the fanny pack. And here I am all these years later, still rocking it in my day-to-day life because it's essential, man. I don't know how people live without one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it definitely got a lot of attention when I first saw you. I'm like, huh, I've never seen that done before, but yeah, it definitely works and gets you over. So,
Yeah, see, like now it's kind of cool and trendy for like to be a throwback and be retro. Like Johnny Swinger has a gimmick like that on TV. There's a wrestler under the name the Fanny Pack Kid. I've seen other guys with Zubaz. But when I started doing it 12 years ago, old school was kind of like becoming the thing where people were like, oh, old school wrestling, and they were kind of shunning it. And I was like, hell no, I am waving this flag and I'm keeping it alive. So I started kind of proudly wearing it, and I was even a Zubaz distributor for a period of time and was selling them to people across the continent, wearing my fanny pack, and I stuck to it. I had commitment. Those pants were worn everywhere. The fanny pack was worn everywhere. And little by little, you would see more and more wrestlers wearing Zubaz and more wrestlers wearing fanny packs. And now it's almost common again, as it was 20, 30 years ago. You'll see it almost everywhere you go. So I kind of made it cool again. I'm taking credit for it, and no one can tell me otherwise.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think mullets are starting to come back in fashion now too. So, yeah.
Honestly, that was something I considered when I was doing the initial run of that gimmick, because I had like the Rivera jacket, like from the Rivera Steakhouse jacket from Japan, which is like another old school wrestler throwback and cliche. So I had that jacket for my visit there. So I was wearing the jacket. I had this Zubaz. I had the fanny pack, and I fought with it every day because I thought the mullet would really round out the character and the gimmick, and it's something I really wanted to commit to. And I think if I was just wrestling full time, I would have done it and I would have made the leap, because at that point, wearing pink Zubaz and a panty pack, there's not much more you can do to look any more like an asshole than you did already. The mullet would have just topped it off. But still running a business, 9 to 5, and having to go into businesses and talk to them about sponsorship and talk to schools and things of that nature, I figured I had to balance it out just a little bit and keep somewhat of a professional presentation on that front, or I might be costing myself business where I won't even be able to wear the hair anyway because there'll be no shows. So it was that was the one trade-off. I kind of regret it now because I probably can't grow a mullet anymore at this age. But it was something that was a deep internal battle for a long time on if to do it or not do it. And as I get older, maybe that will be a regret that I didn't at least rock it a little while.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. It's kind of like you said, definitely crazy how old fashions is coming back and being utilized like this. So yeah. All right. Jesse.
What's new is old.
Oh, oh.
New is
Sorry.
old. I
New is
like that
old.
one. New is old. Speaking of Aaron Corbin, he's been doing a lot of great things lately, even for his community. So we just wanted to give a shout out to Aaron for doing that. But my question for you is, what do you think of all the Canadian stars that are coming out or who have been around for a while, like Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens? What's your take on them?
They're great, and that's why they're where they're at. Like, another one's Kenny Omega. He started here in Winnipeg, where
Yep.
I'm from. He wrestled for CWE in our infancy. He's somebody I traveled with in my first years in the business and had the opportunity to work a lot with and do some tag matches with early on in my career that I really, cherish looking back, because he was such a good performer even then when he was still green and putting it together, that he made me a better wrestler every time I got in the ring with him. There's a lot of good Canadian wrestlers, and that's what I was talking about earlier about starting CWE. Not to say they're on the same level as Kevin Owens and Kenny Omega, because they're elite athletes and performers like very few in the world. But there's a lot of guys that could be up in that contention that, like I said, you just don't hear about or talk about. Because we're in the middle of nowhere, and it's not always cost effective for Canadian wrestlers to be, going to the US and getting that featured spot on some of the more prominent indies. They were very lucky where they got opportunities and they made them count. So you were able to see them more, and they were able to get further opportunity because of it. But there's a lot of guys up here that are, that good or on that level or have the ability to be on that level that are just kind of shackled by their geography. Not to mention, it's a whole other issue and a whole other nightmare being a Canadian crossing into the US to wrestle. That comes with a whole lot of hassle and due diligence as well. So, Kenny, Kevin, Sami Zayn, all guys like that. They're all guys that, were always so good, and they just needed the right guys to see them in the right platform. And once they got that in the US, they just took off. So, that was something I was really hopeful with CWE, that we'd get guys the opportunity to do the same thing. And I always in my travels, especially when I was going down to the US as often as I was before the world closed down, I was always trying to bring as many Canadian wrestlers as I could with me, because there's so many guys up here that are just so good, and they just get so discouraged because nobody's paying attention up here. Even when we were running those big tours, we're running 30, 35-day tours, and, those shows have, usually a WWE legend on them, or someone, that was a big star in the Attitude Era. There'd be five guys from Ring of Honor on it that are on TV every week. There'd be a couple guys from Impact, and then all our top Canadian guys that are working with them every night and just tearing it up, having good matches. But even like with the scale of show we're running, we have 5, 6, 7, 8 big names on it on top of our guys. We're doing well locally in these markets, but the wrestling world wouldn't pay attention. Like, we were running shows that would be considered super shows in the US for the amount of talent and big names that were on them. And you wouldn't even get a lick of coverage from the US or the internet going, wow, these big shows are happening in Canada. There's ROH talent, there's Impact talent, there's Mexican talent. We had New Japan talent. They just weren't paying attention to us. Even then, after been doing this for 13 years and running the scale of shows and having the level of talent we're on, it's like we're still just kind of tucked in the back, and nobody's kind of paying attention to what's going on. So, once in a while, you've got a guy that breaks out of the pack, and he gets that opportunity and he makes the most of it. And then you see a Kenny Omega, you see a Kevin Owens, you see a Sami Zayn, you see a Michael Elgin, who, was another Canadian guy that went on to be a big star, before he had to deal with some personal issues and things of that nature. There's a lot of guys up here. Kyle O'Reilly, another Canadian, who went on to do really, really well for himself, that had to get out of Canada and get the right opportunity in the US. And once he did, he was off and running. And there's so many guys like that, man. If there was somebody that came up here and scouted individually at these events, from a major US company, you'd probably see a lot of big stars on TV from Canada if more were just allotted the platform to show what they have to bring to the table.
Yeah, it definitely is. Some of these smaller territories I wish some of these smaller territories got some of this attention, because that's where a lot of stars are, especially within the Midwest territory and Canada. So, yeah. And just to clarify, you said you worked with Kenny Omega a little bit, or?
Sorry, you cut out there.
Just to clarify, you said you did work with Kenny in his early days?
Oh, yeah. He started in 2000, 2001. I started in 2003. So I did Canadian trips with him. We did a couple American trips together. We wrestled each other multiple times here in Winnipeg. And then when he was wrestling for CWE, me and him were tag team partners during his run with CWE in 2010, 2011. We were the first CWE tag team champions together, oddly enough. So I got to work with him quite a bit over the years. He's somebody I maybe once or twice a year we'll check in and say hi and see how he's doing, and congratulate him on his success. But he's somebody I considered a good friend for many years, and somebody I spoke to on a regular basis, and somebody I considered a mentor early in my career. Like, even when we were working for the same organizations and we're working for different promotions, I always valued and appreciated his opinion so much that I probably annoyed him asking him questions and trying to get to work with him and things of that nature, because every time I did, I felt like I was a better wrestler. And I think everybody from Winnipeg that ever worked with him would say that. Like, there's some guys that are just dreadful wrestlers. We have a lot of good wrestlers here, but we got some guys that are fucking dog shit too, just like every other area. But Kenny would work with some of those guys that shouldn't have been in a ring, and he would have the best match you would ever see out of them. And it was something that I think a lot of guys would say here, that they had their best match with Kenny Omega, because when he is focused and he's determined, he's a magician in there. You know, I know he's controversial today. You know, people have their different opinions about him, but as someone who's been in the ring with him and knows his capabilities, he's one of the best to ever be in the ring, or one of the best I've ever been in the ring with anyway. And I think anybody who's ever shared a ring with him would share that same sentiment. He's so good at what he does that he makes everybody around him just as good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Keep that out there a bit.
Oh, there you are.
Oh, okay. I was like, you're screaming, like I'm like, yeah. But yeah, it's definitely awesome that you're able to work with Kenny Omega in his early days. I mean, starting out working with him, that's definitely awesome.
Yeah, I would say the last time I wrestled with him was 2000. We did that tag team run in 2010, and we had some really good matches. I remember we wrestled Michael Elgin and Keith Walker. We wrestled with Eric Cannon, the Davari brothers. A lot of guys that were just really good. So being in the ring just with the group of them really helped my development, because that's when I was really starting to come into my own as a wrestler. Man, I really wish, and I'm sure somebody has it. I think I know who might, but like one of my favorite matches with Kenny, I was only like 18 years old at the time, probably 150 pounds soaking wet. And I wrestled with Kenny. Kenny signed a developmental deal in 2006, I think. So he went to WWE for a little while early in his career, and I wrestled him on a TV taping in Winnipeg at like 18 years old. Shouldn't have been anywhere near the ring with him at that point. You know, I was just starting my career and starting to put together stuff myself. And there was such an uproar from certain people in the business, because the promoter put me over on Kenny in his last match before he went to Deep South Wrestling to work with WWE, because, you know, the general philosophy is when leaving the territory, they're going to put somebody over. And that happened to be me, which Kenny could have said no to and didn't have to do, but not only did, but gave me an incredible match that I was not capable of having with anybody else, you know, at 18 years old, you know, 2 years in the business and still trying to figure things out. So I was always very grateful and very thankful for the way he treated me and the way he worked with me, because he did a lot of things for me that he didn't have to. And I think a lot of guys would say that, just as they would, you know, they had their better matches with him. So it's good to see he's had the success he's had, because it's definitely deserved, and the talent is definitely there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Aaron Corbin says AJ LaRock and Danny could go anywhere and be top guys given the right chance. So I definitely agree with that.
We were just talking about Canadian guys that should have a job on television, and AJ Sanchez is one of them. He often gets compared to Kevin Owens because they're both a little heavier set and they can both moonsault and do really athletic things. But he's a completely different wrestler and a different personality than Kevin. But he should have the same success all the same. Like, I don't know. I don't know what, you know, I think maybe, you know, I think I know why deep down personally, which I won't discuss. But he's another just anomaly of a guy that if he would have got in front of the right people at the right time, there's no reason you wouldn't see him on television regularly and people be talking about him as one of the best in the world. He's one of the most entertaining professional wrestlers you'll ever see. He's got an amazing personality. He's quick-witted. He's well-spoken. And at 300 plus pounds, he can, you know, moonsault. He can dive to the floor. But on top of that, he can get heat as a heel. He can get over as a babyface. He can have a traditional pro wrestling match. And he probably hates me for it because it's to his detriment. But he's such a good wrestler. One of the best I've been in the ring with. I've probably had legitimately 400 matches with him, because I know every time I wrestle him, it's going to be awesome. You know, you just have certain guys you click with so well. And luckily for me, that was him. So we've been married, you know, the majority of our career together everywhere we've wrestled. But he's a guy who's so talented and so good at what he does in front of any audience, whether he's been in front of them or not before. You know, it's almost a detriment to him, because he often gets put with guys that are not on his level, or guys that are very green or very young or very inexperienced, you know, which might be a little disappointing to him, because he doesn't always get to have that great match he can have with guys who can go. but he'll still have the best match of the night anyway with a guy who shouldn't even be in the ring with him, because he's got that ability and he's got that patience and that that knowledge to be able to connect with any audience he's in front of. So if you get in the ring with AJ, you could be the worst wrestler in the ring. People are going to think you're awesome, and they're going to like you by the time it's done, because he's so well crafted at what he does. So I've always cheerleaded for him and tried to get him opportunities wherever I could, and still to this day try to, because he's a guy, man. It's like, unfortunately, he's like me. He's getting up there a little in age now, so I don't know if he's got grand visions of anything, bigger on a national level, personally. But realistically, he could walk onto TV tomorrow and hang with those guys, because a lot of those guys you see on TV now, whether it be AEW or WWE, I would have to look at a roster list now, but the last time I did, because I don't watch TV too often anymore, but there's a good dozen guys on both of those rosters that have been through CWE, on their journey to WWE or on their journey to AEW. And chances are, AJ probably had to carry them and get them a better match than they were capable of having at that point in their career. And now they're polished and can go. But realistically, he could walk onto AEW, he could walk into WWE, and he can have a great match with anybody. He wouldn't be out of place. You wouldn't know who he was, but you would know that he belongs. And that's something I firmly believe. And that's something, and that's what always continues to get him booked, because people look at him at first and go, oh, this big, heavy guy. And as we were talking about, usually big, heavy guys are usually not the best. There's guys that are, there's some exceptions, but a lot of them use it as a crutch. Like, oh, I'm a big, heavy guy. I don't have to do shit. AJ can do lots of shit, and he does it very well. So as soon as someone wrestles him for the first time, they're just blown away, because they judge the book by the cover, and then they get in the ring with him and they see how talented he is, and they have the best match they've ever had before, and they're singing his praises.
Mm-hmm.
Battery's dying on me here, so I'm gonna just try to throw a charger in here so we don't lose connection.
Okay, sounds good.
Might have. Does that work too?
Yep.
I think so. Yeah.
So if there is a chance for voter, people are listening. Sanchez.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, AJ Sanchez is definitely an awesome wrestler. I saw him, same period I saw you, and he's definitely an awesome guy, definitely out in the ring. And seeing that he knows how to do a moonsault and those dives, and definitely an awesome worker. So
yeah, he's so well rounded. Like I said, you put him in there with the guy having his first match, he'll be great. You can put him in a main event with the guy who can go, it'll be even greater. And that's the key to being a good professional wrestler, is just being diverse and being able to work with anybody. And old man yelling at the clouds again, that's one of my things that that it saddens me as I continue to watch so many new wrestlers and work with so many new wrestlers, with where I'm at now in my career. There's such little diversity, and guys are good at what they do, so they stick to it, which I understand to a certain degree. But you can tell, like, a lot of guys, if they're taken out of their environment, they wouldn't know how to have a good match with anybody. Good match with somebody who can do their stuff. But there's a lot of guys that can have a good style wrestling match if it's another wrestler who wrestles similar to them. But if you put them in the ring with a Mitch Paradise, or you put them in the ring with Aaron Corbin, all of a sudden they're at a loss for what to do, because those guys don't necessarily wrestle the same way as they do. And they don't understand they don't have to wrestle the same way they do when they wrestle those guys to be over. And in fact, if they didn't, they'd probably be more over for it. But AJ's a guy, he's a good example for, anybody who's not familiar with him. Go watch him wrestle anybody. First match, 10th match, 1000th match. It doesn't matter if they're a high flyer, a brawler, tag team wrestler. He's going to have a good match with all of them, and that's something I think every wrestler should aspire to do. And those are usually the best guys I've ever been in the ring with, guys that can switch it up and work with anybody. There's a lot of guys that are just really good at what they do, and that works. But once you have to get in there with somebody who's not capable of keeping up with what you do, you're exposed very quickly, and that could be bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Pete King's in the chat, and he says Shane Foster, APW champion, is watching right now. What are your thoughts on Shane Foster now that he's here?
I think we covered that. like I mentioned, I'm not familiar with Shane. I've heard his name. I've heard people talk about him. I've seen pictures of him. But he's one of the rare people, and I think it's just a matter of me being locked out of the country for 2 years that I just lost paths with yet. But for him to be a heavyweight champion, that tells me he's a good professional wrestler.
Oh, we lost him.
Oh, what happened mid-conversation, too? That was,
I think Jerry had something to do with that.
Jerry Ulricher, come on. Cream cheese, man. What are you doing? Hopefully he'll be back. Okay, there he is. Oh. All right. Hey.
I got booted out again.
Oh, yeah, it was weird. He just cut out main conversation. I'm like, what just happened there?
He just completely kicked me off this time. It just logged me out. But like I mentioned, unless Pete's been feeding, Shane complete slubs, which I would hope he's not, that means he's got to be a pretty good pro wrestler to be, the heavyweight champion. As a promoter myself, you want the very best representing your company. You don't want some, jabroni who can't, handle the load of being on top. So if Shane is the champion, there's a reason for it. That means he's very good at what he does. Unfortunately for Shane, I'm even better at what I do. So he's going to find that out when we lock up and I become the all-out pro wrestling heavyweight champion.
Yeah. He just typed in the chat. He appreciates the compliment. So yeah, it'll definitely be awesome to see in the future. So yeah. All right, Jesse.
Yeah. So have you had any conversations with Kenny Omega as of late?
I don't think I've talked to Kenny in probably 2 years or so. It's probably been a couple years. I said them like hello and hey in there, just a quick chin, but I haven't had a conversation with him in a while. I've been busy. He's busy. But he's still somebody I consider a friend. And
hopefully we'll be seeing him back on AEW very soon.
Yeah, for what I understand, he's sealed up. So he's been a long time. I'm not sure if he took off any time before this long extended run, but I remember talking to him even a couple years back, more than a couple years back, like maybe 4 or 5 years ago before AEW, and he was running his body pretty thin just from the demand of working in Japan and just these high-end indies like Ring of Honor and such he's doing, because that's the double-edged sword of being a top guy. When you're as good as Kenny and you're booked in the position of Kenny, people want to see the best Kenny Omega they can get each and every night. There's no nights off when you're a talent at that level because the people are paying to see you specifically. And because he is so good and he works such a physical style, I remember him even saying then his body was beat up. So I can only imagine how bad it had to be for him to finally take some time off, because that's not something, wrestlers usually want to have to do, especially when they're in the top position in wrestling on television. Yeah, I want to say maybe 5 years ago, so it was around 2017, we started running some small rural shows in Manitoba for our younger wrestlers. And I remember talking to him and saying like, hey, if you're in town, we've got these student shows, just having you in the locker room, would be great. Working with them would be even better. But, it just wasn't realistic for him to be putting any extra stress on his body with the schedule he was keeping and the demand of the high level he had to wrestle on then. So, and he's no spring chicken either. I know he's only been on national television for 3 years, but he's like 3-4 years older than me, so he's got to be almost 40 now. He's been doing this 20 years.
Oh no, that's not good. I've never seen it.
Blame it on Danucci.
I've never seen that done before. It just cuts out on him. I might have to wrap it up in a little bit.
Yeah. Sorry, everybody.
Yeah. All right.
Blame it on Pete.
Yeah.
We got some bad luck. They just logged me off again.
Yeah, that was weird. I've never seen it done twice, and I've never even seen it done once. So
I've got
Really
full
weird.
service here, so I don't know what the issue is.
Yeah, I don't know. I got full Wi-Fi and everything, so I shouldn't be kicking you off or anything. But yeah. Scott says, I'm not sure if you know the wrestler, but how would Danny Duggan do against Matthias?
I just wrestled Matthias a month ago, and I kicked the shit out of him, so pretty good.
Oh, oh. Oh, there we go.
To his credit, he kicked the shit out of me too. But I did come out the victor in that one, just barely. That one beat me up, man. It was we did a hardcore match, and I don't do hardcore wrestling, so it was a little out of my element. And I have a whole new respect for hardcore wrestlers. Like, I've definitely done hardcore matches and no DQ matches and things over the years, but not so directly and just without cause like this one was. And man, like I got slammed into a table. I still got a goose egg, a month and a half later that probably needs to be drained on my elbow. I hit him with a barbed wire bat. I didn't get hit with it, and I still managed on the follow through of hitting him in the head with the bat. The follow through sliced my leg, and my leg was cut up and bleeding for like a week after. And I'm thinking, I barely touched the thing. I can't imagine going into this thing like body first, like some of these guys do, and what the next week of their life must entail, having to clean up all that blood and all those cuts and scabs. So I definitely have a new appreciation for how crazy some of those guys were, because I had a small taste of it and I did not like it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm gonna stick to headlocks and backdrops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it definitely is crazy how some of these guys do the things that they do. So, yeah. Jesse?
Okay, one more question for you. So, what do you think of the success that Garrison Creed is having right now?
I like Garrison Creed. He's a good dude. I gave him his first opportunity up in Canada. I wrestled on a show in Wisconsin, and he was on it, and he was just starting out. I think he was in his first year or so, and he was looking for opportunity. And we had a spot open up on a tour. I said, "Here's your opportunity. Come and make the most of it." And he showed up. He did a good 2, 3, 4 tours with us before everything shut down, and he worked hard, and now he's doing really well for himself. I just saw him down in Kentucky when I wrestled for OVW in December, and he's doing really well. I just like some NW stuff, and he's keeping himself really busy, and he's a good example of what happens when you actually go out and try to get it. A lot of guys, especially now, like to sit at home and try to get over on Twitter and hope somebody comes and calls him and gives him an opportunity. He's going and he's making opportunities for himself. He's getting himself in front of the right people. He's in the gym constantly. He moved himself from Wisconsin to Kentucky so he can train under Al Snow. He's doing everything he needs to, everything he can to try to get business, and that.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think we're gonna have to wrap it up.
Yeah. Or once he comes back on, we'll tell him we'll wrap it up and then do that, because this is bad. I don't know what. I don't know. Well, I mean, I don't want to say it's like Canada, but it's like I've never seen that done before.
It is good.
Keeps cutting. It's weird. I've never seen that done before. It's weird. Yeah.
Because I'm in Canada, and Canada's terrible for everything right now, so we'll just blame it on Canada.
Yeah. Blame it on Canada. All right. Well, yeah, I guess. Yeah, so we don't have you cut out again. We'll just end it right here. It's been awesome talking with you, Danny. I mean, I've been wanting to talk for a little while since you were part of the reasons I wanted to get into watching indie wrestling. So it's awesome to talk to you. Awesome to hear your success, and hope you keep doing good.
Yeah, let's definitely do it again. I'm currently residing with somewhere outside of my home for about a week while I get everything set up. So maybe we can try again in the future when I've got a more sufficient studio space.
Yeah. It definitely would be awesome to talk to you more about just a lot of things. So yeah.
Right. Great, guys. Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. Have a nice night, Danny.
Yes, you too, guys.
All right. Live video is ending.